Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Michael's Monday Mornings. Like every Monday morning, it's my job to give you all some food for thought on your way to work. This week, we'll be starting with a guest, Ian McGinniss, who recently wrote an op-ed for the New York Times on the state of foreign aid. Ian, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
So, since we don't have much time here, can you quickly summarize your ideas on foreign aid for our listeners who haven't read your article yet?
Oh, sure thing. So basically, I'm arguing that the current system of giving developmental foreign aid, now emergency foreign aid, is crippling the economies of third world countries.
So, just to keep this relevant for our listeners, foreign aid is the government's responsibility. What about if one of our listeners wants to donate, say, food or clothes to one of these developing nations? Is that also an issue?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see where you're going with this. Yeah. I would say it all depends on what the purpose is. The key to this is knowing if there's a need. For something like a hurricane in Texas or a hurricane in any other country, then yes, donating is good since that is an emergency and thus there is a significant need at the time. But if we are, for example, constantly donating a stream of clothes when there isn't a particular shortage, that is an issue. Let's take an example. Back in the 70s, if we took a child growing up in, just let's say, Nigeria, she would wear clothes that were locally produced and that were of decent quality. If we look at today, that same person would have significant trouble getting non-hand-me-down clothes for her own kids. Why? We have thrown an excessive amount of donations at the problem without taking into account the fact that a nation needs to be independent. The textile industry could not compete with the amount of free clothes flooding in to the market.
So, listening to what you're saying, are you saying that it's bad to donate?
Oh, well, no, I don't want to say that outright. Since it's all well-intentioned and everything in moderation is good most of the time. But if you want to help a nation develop, in the grand scheme, yes, it would be bad to donate on the large scale we have been, but there are other ways to help.
So, what are some things that you would say that our listeners could do to help?
Well, it all comes down, it all comes down to a change in attitude towards developing countries. Every person living in a third world country isn't this stereotypical starving kid begging for food. Most people are capable and more than willing to work if they can find a job. Just look towards like companies back to Nigeria, like the company VConnect. They are a software company in Nigeria who employs dozens, like several dozens, if not a hundred or so, employees. And that gives them a line of work and a line to be independent and to feed not only themselves but their families. There needs to be a focus on two things: job creation and investment in small and medium-sized businesses overseas. These ideas will help these nations be independent and thus help their citizens be uplifted from a cycle of poverty.
Well, that is some great food for thought to start the morning. Thanks so much for your time, Ian. You have a good one.
Hey, thanks so much, Michael. Thanks for having me.